Who else has this question which Saizal has asked? Yes. Who else has this question? No one has this question, which means others know the answer to this. What do you say? When others are not saying anything, which means they understand what is being written over here. So, would the more knowledgeable people want to respond, who have understood what it means? Yes, others. How many of you have read this as comparative literature and digital humanities? Yeah, so Heta, would you want to explain the question that Cecil has asked? And it's on page number 199, where it says that employ new tools to thoughtfully sift through, analyze, evaluate the unfathomably large deluge of data and cultural material that the digital age has already unleashed. Something that will require humanists to contend with text mining tools, machine reading, and various kind of algorithmic analysis. And then it goes on to talk about distant reading. Yeah, so Heta, would you want to explain it to Faisal? Want to try? Anyone else? Who else has read this essay? Come on. Batao. Ah, nah, maybe. My question is, how many of you have read the essay Comparative Literature in the Age of Digital Humanities? Raise your hands. Those who have read. So if there are no hands raised, should I assume that all of you haven't read that essay? No one has read this essay. Out of 20 to 23 people, Sehzal has a question from this essay. No one else has read this essay. Yeah, Hitav. So would you like to explain?
Sir,
What,
I would like to try. I would like to try, just try. I may be wrong. So, in the previous passage, it has given a slight idea about there is some kind of exchange between cultures and other features of text and other things. So when we focus that it has continuous and rigorous exchange between different cultures and text and all such things. So when we focus on trying to get employ new tools, that means that we just continue to divulge into extracting things through different and continuous exchanges. So by doing this we get some sort of input, to understand like how different kind of data and exchanges provide us to understand something very new. So there should be a continuous process. So continuous process of exchanging and grasping the data, grasping the knowledge of whatever it is written between text and culture and all such things.
Does that explain you, Sehzal, or it's still not clear?
Sir, it does kind of, but I'm still unsure about this distant reading. I understood what Heta said,
Okay.
but this distant reading term is bothering me. I don't know why. Like, what does it mean actually?
Yeah. But those who have read this essay, do they want to attempt? Because if you say I read the essay, then and you don't have questions or chalo hum aage chalte hain, it means that you have understood it, right? And those who have not read, we can't do anything about them because they don't understand because they haven't read it. And those who have read should be in a position to explain, right? No. Or they should say that we have not understood, like Sehzal has done. So what is the basic problem? You don't read, or you read but you don't ask questions because it looks bad. Log hasenge. Uh, People will think I am dumb. I don't want to look dumb in front of people. How many of you are in that space? I don't want to look dumb. How many of you? बोल दो ना, सच सच बोल दो. So what's the percentage of people who have read this essay? Then there are 2 or 3 people out of a class of 23. 20 people haven't read this essay, right? Should I assume that? No. What's your answer? So what is this meaning of this silence again? Preeti says I haven't read it, but I can't answer the question because she read it but did not understand. Yeah. What about others? Have you read? No. How many of you have not read the text? Please raise your hands. Okay, one person says, haven't read it. Seven people say they haven't read it. So when are you planning to read it? Those who haven't read it. And once you read it after a week or so and you don't understand, then what are you going to do? What's your solution to that problem? Yes, Sakina and others who haven't read, and you have difficulties, so how will you sort that out? Because we would have reached the end of the other unit by then. Any answer? Okay, so this is anyway, people are not answering. They are into guilt mode or doing something else and not paying attention, whatever. I don't know. I'm not very sure. So we can't actually wait for people who do not want to participate in the class. I have to uh, manage time as well. Yeah. So the question that Cecil has asked is about deluge of data and new tools to crypt, analyze, map, evaluate this huge deluge of data. And for that, humanists will require to use text mining tools, machine reading, and various kinds of algorithmic analysis. That's our problem. And the question is about distant reading, which he has not understood. So, Cecil, can you tell me what is digital humanities?
Sir, as per my understanding, digital humanities is is a different discipline. Which is related to like this which is related to the technologies and and it includes the part of humanities. Like for example, as this essay talks about the online publications and everything. Like this is what I understood when I read it yesterday. Like,
So
I'm quite
what is it? So if you are asked simply to explain it to your younger sibling, 10th standard, how will you explain her or him what is digital humanities?
I'm not quite sure, sir, that I would be the correct person to explain without reading the essay 2 to 3 times more. Like, uh, I know my capability, and I know that I would require it to read few more times to completely understand this
There is
concept.
the answer. What is digital humanities, right? Page number 199, second paragraph. Humanists will have to design and employ new tools, right, to thoughtfully sift through, analyze, map, and evaluate the unfathomably large deluge of data and cultural material that the digital age has already unleashed. Something that will require humanists to contend with text mining tool, machine reading, and various kind of algorithmic analysis. And this is called digital humanities. That's the definition of digital humanities. Does that make any sense? What is digital humanities? And digital humanities does this. It is about designing and employing new tools, right? Very often text mining tools or machine reading or various kind of algorithmic analysis. These are the kind of tools that the humanists will have to design and employ. And why would they have to do it? Is because there is a huge deluge of cultural material which is produced digitally, right? Huge data. And there is something called big data analysis. Have you heard of big data, Cesar? The idea of big data?
No, sir, I haven't.
Big data is uh, the condition of the present where so many terabytes of information is put on digital platform every minute. Terabytes, a huge quantity of data, and you can say that the amount of data that is produced daily on internet and what World Wide Web, which is not the same thing, right, is far more than all the data that was produced from in past 10,000 years. Does that make any sense? Data that is
Yes.
produced on a daily basis on internet is far more than all the data that was produced right from the times of Sumerian civilization, Akkadian civilization till the invention of the internet. उस टाइम पे जितना डेटा पैदा हुआ उससे ज्यादा तो एक दिन में पैदा होता है, right? That is the exponential growth of data that has happened because of digital technologies of data production, access, and yeah. So that is just to give you a size of doesn't matter. Yeah. So the data that is produced on such a huge scale by human beings is cultural. The selfie that you posted on your Instagram, right, has a particular pixel resolution, right? It is data. I hope you understand that.
Yes, sir.
The meal that you post, right, is certain quantity of data that is produced. Now, do you think humanists should be interested in that? The selfie that you posted on Instagram?
I don't think so. They
Why?
would be interested in the selfie.
Why not?
Why would they be?
Why wouldn't they be? What's the reason for them not being interested in that selfie?
If that data doesn't make much of a sense to them, then why would they be interested? If it makes sense, then they would.
Is it something that humanists should be studying, even if they don't understand it?
I don't know.
So what is humanism then? Because you have got a degree in humanities, right? So how many of you feel that humanist has nothing to do with the selfie of your dinner that you posted yesterday? Or the birthday that you celebrated? How many of you feel so? No. Yeah, Pooja. Preeti. So why should humanists be interested in that selfie that you posted? What's the reason? Or should not be interested? So Hazel feel it's not so important.
It, as Hazel said, that it could not be important, but I can't come up with reasons of why is it important.
Okay. Then do you think humanists does it fall under humanistic study?
Looking at the data of somebody's selfie. Um, I'm not sure.
That's why I asked, what is it that humanists do? What is their job? What do they study? What do humanists study? Yeah, Dehini.
Sir, so humanist would be concerned about one particular selfie because it shows it also shows the culture. It shows the tradition that nowadays people follow. It shows the influence of people of social media. One selfie or multiple selfies signifies a lot of things, and then becomes a part of human behavior and thus humanities.
So humanists should be concerned, should be studying it. It falls under the discipline of humanities. Yes, no? Because it reveals the culture, it reveals the impact of technology on human life. So in what way Dehini does it reveal human culture and impact of technology on that? A selfie, how would that reveal something?
So I can take a guess here by saying that earlier, self photos weren't there in much in picture because of maybe cameras, and then with the help of technology, now we now have mobile phones, and now we can click. And earlier there were only back cameras. Now there are front cameras. There are two front cameras. Yeah, so things keep on getting better and better, and with the help of this, we have a whole new generation of people who are now much more interested in clicking selfies than the rest of the environment, because the digital aspect of, the digital technology provides that. So it's we can also trace the history, we can trace the human behavior from this impact. And yeah.
So what do you say about human behavior? What can you say about that?
I personally feel that it's very individualistic from my point of view. I have always felt that, and it's like self love maybe, or I don't know. I don't know how to say this, but that keeps on increasing. The concept, your world, even though it has been said that digital humanities has made the world very short, but it's too self centric, and maybe because of the devices like that.
Dehini, you have to make a distinction between digital humanities and digital technologies. Are they one and the same?
No, 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 no. They are not same.
So what's the difference?
Humanities is the study. It can be said as a study of human behavior and what affects them. And technology is something which affects human behavior. So technology is a product of science. Yeah, maybe. But humanities is the study of human behavior and how technology.
Study of human behavior only, or something else along with the behavior? I'm not saying no to behavior, but something else also. Shakespeare's play that you study, are you studying human behavior in that, or what are you studying?
No, it's also history. It's also yes, human behavior, social sciences, economy, everything.
So when you read Shakespeare, you get a sense of human behavior, economy. Is the reason why you read a play by Shakespeare?
Sir, maybe we can say that when you talk about humanities, it also incorporates the way humans represent themselves or their interests or, their identity when it comes to all of
Right.
that. So, representation is an important part.
So selfie, does it figure in that?
Yes, sir, it does. When you talk about representation, then of course you would, the selfie is a way of showing that this is how these days people are representing themselves. The way they're using technology as a way of putting themselves forth to the world. So yeah, I would say humanists would be interested in how people are, what expression they're using to represent themselves.
Right. So humanists are also interested in human self representations, and therefore human selfie is a part of human self-representation, and as Dehini was saying, it is also about revealing your behavior and the impact of technology on our life. That is also what selfie reveals. Yeah. What else? I think someone else raised a hand. I saw it. Window. Who raised hand just now?
Sir, I'm completely agree with Soumya and Dehini that humanists should interested in the study of selfies. But again, there is a question of, there's millions of people in this world, and on daily basis, they're producing, I think, so many selfies that uncountable, right? Yeah,
I
and
can't
which
see
is
in this question. मुझे पता नहीं चल रहा है कौन पूछ रहा है, because of maybe I am using my phone. I can't see somebody who has unmuted themselves, himself, herself. Who is it speaking? I'm not using
sir,
my.
me, Vibha.
Vibha, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I was saying that is according to that there is a deluge of data, and it's impossible to trace every selfie that produced in this world, which is again that's what I'm talking about.
So what will you do then, as a humanist?
I think there's similar to the question of the literature that produced in a digital humanity, like in a age of this digitalization, and that's why we have this new tool, distant reading. But I'm not sure what we can do about what we have to come up with a new tool of studying selfies. I'm not sure, but we might come up with something.
So what kind of tools can you develop for accessing billions of selfies that are produced every year? Suppose your research object is selfie, because it falls under humanities, right? Because that's about self-representation, and it's also about impact of technology on human behavior. It's about all these things, but also about we study Shakespeare also because of imagination, ability of imagination to create reality in the form of literary text. Julius Caesar by Shakespeare is not the real Julius Caesar, right? He's a creation of somebody's imagination. Similarly, when you go to Bhimbetka, has anyone been to Bhimbetka, Bhopal, near Bhopal? You see the paintings on the wall in the caves, which are 40,000 years ago, where you show a human being, you see a human being and an elephant and fire. So human beings have represented and imagined their lives, right? Through texts. Text may be painted texts, or it may be line drawing as in cave drawing. It may be a portrait, self-portrait, right? Or it may be a selfie. So humanists consider that as an object of study, because humanist is interested in question of self-representation, imagination, and also how human being negotiates technology. All these questions are important for humanists, right? But the problem, as Vibha says, is that there are billions of selfies produced. So how are you going to study them? What kind of tools will you develop to study them? How will you study them? Any ideas? Yeah, Hetav.
So, sir, I would like to say that, so when if any humanist wants to understand selfie, so they won't just stick to one particular selfie, but they would try to explore more proliferation of selfies that have happened on digital platform, right? So they would like to understand all those similar selfies, and they would try to extract similarities, differences, and they would try to correlate with the culture and how they represent culture either in similar or different ways. So this might be the way of their method of understanding humanity or culture.
So what you're saying is they would like to delimit, instead of studying all the things, they would delimit their data, right? And this is a methodological question, right? Research method का question है, कैसे हम उसको study करें जो billions में produce होता है. It's a deluge of selfies that you have to deal with. So out of that, in order to understand how they are connected to culture, as Rushi, Hetav is saying, how it's connected to culture, how does it reveal that culture, then you have to delimit those selfies, right? You can't study billions of them. But so, say, for example, Hetav, you are studying Indian selfies, selfies by Indians. So how will you delimit that? How will you go about studying that? Will you be able to gather all the selfies produced by Indians?
So maybe by collecting the trending selfies.
Trending selfies. How will you do that? How will you collect those trending selfies?
By using hashtags.
Hashtags, okay.
Hashtags, mentions, locations.
So how will you do that?
And sir, I think a major part of this would be to record the reactions that they are getting, the way people are responding to their selfies. So that would be an important part.
To study the comments and reacts apart from the selfies, right? And I think it was Sezel who said that we need to look at the hashtags, trending selfies, maybe. And
Yes, sir.
So how will you go about collecting them for your study?
Sir, collective can be hard thing, but we can divide it further into groups. Like one group could be a trending one, and then another group could be another thing. It would be very easy.
It would be very easy, but it wouldn't be easy.
Definitely.
It would be very easy to study. I mean.
Not, I wouldn't say that this would be an easy task, but maybe if you're dividing, then rather than dividing according to which is more famous or something, you can like take different kinds of selfies that people are posting. So if someone is posting a dinner selfie, so the families would react, the people of a certain age would react to it. If someone is posting a selfie in a bathing suit, maybe, so the kind of reactions that they are getting, so you would get yeah, so you would get a sense of how people react to different kinds of ways that you are representing your life. So that can be one way.
Okay. So there are two ways that we have already discovered, three ways. One is what Hetav says, that we delimit it to maybe connect it to culture. Secondly, what Sezel is saying, that we may only focus on those which are trending selfies, hashtag wale currently. And the third option is not just to focus on the popular and the most viewed selfies, but to look at various kinds of selfies, right? Say, for example, dinner selfie, toilet selfie, nahate selfie, khate selfie, sote selfie, whatever. Baag mein selfie, kahin pe, right? So various kinds of selfies. So that is another way, by classifying those selfies into genres. Can you use the word genre here? Is it possible
Yes,
to use dinner selfie as a genre? Is it possible to think of that as a genre? Yes, no.
That is an interesting approach, sir. That would be a very interesting approach. So yeah, I think we can do that.
Right. So these are the questions that humanists ask. So what we are doing humanities, right? But our material is digital. But that is not yet digital humanities. And the reason for that is we have to devise certain kinds of tools which may include certain programs. Say, for example, I write a program which says that it will collect all selfies with hashtag dinner, dinner selfie friends. इतने hashtag collect करने वाला program लेता हूँ, and that program will analyze all the selfies on the internet, right? Maybe 50 lakh, and that is possible, right? 50 lakh selfies, and it will narrow down, it will throw up 5 lakh selfies, which tell you that these are having these hashtags of, say, for example, dinner, food, selfie, essay. So that program will do the delimitation for me. So if I come up with such kind of software, I am doing digital humanities, right? And what am I doing? I am not looking at 50 lakh selfies. I am not studying 50 lakh selfies to come up with 5 lakh sample, right? That means I am not reading those texts individually, right? I am not doing an analysis of each and every selfie, right? What I'm doing is devising a program, writing a program or a which will do that for me on a massive scale. So that program is doing all the reading of hashtag. So hashtag कौन collect करेगा? जो मैंने program लिखा है वो, right? Because individually, if I start collecting all the trending selfies, it will take me 50 years to just come up with all the selfies that are being put online, right? I hope you get what I'm saying. Am I being clear, or is it still not understood?
Sir, I have a question. Okay, so the software which we would develop would collect the data. Like now you have 5 lakh images of people who go out for food or are with our friends or something. But then how would a humanist look at these 5 lakh images and come up with certain similarities or differences of what a humanist wants to do?
Maybe then I write another program for this 5 lakh archive, which I have shortlisted using the first program, right? And I say those which use hashtag of the cities in India, I write a program which identifies location indicators on those selfies, which are related to Gujarat, right? So city, I will enter all the names of the cities in Gujarat. And then I will write this software which shortlists out of this 5 lakh, 500 selfies taken in Gujarat of dinner.
So basically, we have to narrow down till we get to a research question.
Exactly. So how you delimit something, and this is what every research scholar does. But what are you using for your research as part of your methodology? You are using programming languages. You say algorithms, right? You are writing programs. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Something that you don't do when you are studying Shakespeare in the class, because it's already delimited for you. That out of all the Elizabethan plays, you are given just 5 plays by Shakespeare, out of which 1 you read, right? So it's already delimited for you. But here you are using digital tools to ask research, to do research. रिसर्च करने के लिए आप नए डिवाइस बनाते हो which are specific to your research project, because your research project is what? studying selfies in their cultural context and how people represent themselves and the psychology of self-representation. Whether that has changed or not, as somebody was saying, that it is about self, and I am not very sure because narcissist falls in love with himself or herself and just keeps watching himself or herself. Does not put up one's face for display. You want 100 people to like your photo. Narcissist is comfortable liking his or her photo. Narcissist would be the last person to post a photo or a selfie. It's somebody who wants likes and reacts from others. Right, and say for example, maybe you use as development of I, and say how these likes that you get from the other is in some way feeding into your own self-image. So who you are depends on how others perceive you to be, and you want to control how others perceive you, and that's why you are devising this strategy of getting likes and reacts, right? You want more people to admire you. So so that becomes a different kind of psychology behind selfie. And as somebody was saying, you may be interested in the history of self-representation in form of maybe self-portraits that the artist did, or maybe the portraits which patrons had their artist made, right? Say, for example, Queen Elizabeth would get her picture painted, right? So you are looking at the history of self-representation, cultural context. Why is it that certain cultures are obsessed with self-representation? And why is it that some cultures are not so interested? So all these research questions which humanists ask requires digital tools for doing the research, right? And that devising and designing and coming up with these kind of questions and programs which are specific to your questions. Like Soumya is interested in not very popular or trending selfies, but genres of selfies. She wants to classify various genres. So she has a different research question from what who has Sezel has, say for example. Or Dehini is more interested in how technology impacts human behavior, right? So various research questions will require various kinds of tools. So you have not just to come up with research questions, but also to develop tools for researching that question. And those tools are digital. You are writing software, right? So when your program is reading 5 lakh selfies to come up with 500 with the city hashtag which are tagged as with certain city, right? Gujarat, then you are not doing that. That is doing that, and this kind of reading is called distant reading. Sezel, so you are not directly reading 5, right? You are making program read 5 lakh selfies. I hope you get what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
And that is called distant reading. So when you have a deluge of data, obviously you cannot read all the novels written in this year, even in Britain. You can't possibly. 50,000 novels kaise padhoge ek saal ke? So what you will do is you will crunch those novels digitally into your computer and design programs as per your research needs. right? And then represent this data in forms of data visualization of various kinds. You may say that people from Baroda, 35 people from Baroda are representing, are putting out selfies of dinner on this date, while 500 people from Ahmedabad were doing so. And so you will show that in bar graph, right? So that is called, I hope you know what is a bar chart, right? Or you can show a pie chart. Are you aware of these things? Pie charts. Have you heard of this, Hazel?
Yes, sir.
So that is called data visualization, right? And using software programs to analyze 50 lakh posts on Facebook, right, is called cultural analytics, which is a kind of subset of something called data analytics. Data analytics, Sunay, have you heard of the term data analytics, which is one of the important branch of computer science emerging, whose job is to study what is trending, what are things that are out on, and then decide the product, right? Say, for example, a new film is being launched, right? And you have started advertising it online. Then they would employ data analytic companies to do a survey of how people are responding to these ads. What is it that they like or don't like? Is the trend positive or negative? And if it's negative, how can we? What are the ways to market it? Right? And that is one of the hottest jobs for computer scientists today. So a branch of that intersects humanities is called cultural analytics. And it's mentioned on page number, where is yeah. It's used somewhere, but I can't place it. You know what? I'm using print, right? So I'm unable to trace where the word cultural analytics is used in this book. I'm flipping through pages. But had I been using a PDF, then I would just say search or find, and then right. So data is all digital humanities has to consider. So in a PDF, which is digital text, right? I can find that word more easily than I can find on the print. So you can see the difference between a PDF and a printed version that I am using just now. I can do it far more quickly on PDF than on printed, because I have a tool which is about find or search. So am I doing digital humanities? No, I'm just using which others have made. So that is not so much of digital. It is not digital humanities. People who made those tools, right, are the people who are doing digital humanities. Right now, we are having a class online. We are using a digital platform for meeting, but that is not digital humanities. If I send you a PDF on WhatsApp, that is not digital humanities. But if I build a social media platform similar to WhatsApp, which is specially designed for English students and their requirements, then that would be digital humanities. I hope I'm clear. Any questions about what is digital humanities? Anything that you have not understood? Cecil?
No, sir. I understood now.
Right? Anyone else has this kind of question? So what is distant reading? Then Franco Moretti says that when you are studying, say, for example, Victorian novel, and you study 3 Victorian novels, one by Thackeray, one by Dickens, and one by maybe Stevenson, and say this is the picture of your age that we find in these 3 novels. Franco Moretti says that this is actually to make any generalizations about how Victorian novel represents Victorian culture. You cannot make any substantial generalizations based on reading 3 novels, because there are 3 lakh novels written in Victorian period. So your sample size has to be something like 30,000. And it is not humanly possible to read 30,000 novels. How many of you can read 30,000 novels? So in such a case, what you will do is you will find soft copies of this, which are available on archives like Gutenberg, right? And then you are looking for, you devise a program which says, look for the word like Indian colony. How is the word Indian used in Victorian novel? Right? So it will give you all the data that you want, which can be represented in various ways in forms of graphs, charts, or diagrams. So you prepare such kind of tool to read 30,000 Victorian novels. According to Moretti, this is the kind of digital reading which is distant. And reading 3 novels and saying that this is the accurate picture of Victorian period is canonical. So close reading, according to Moretti, is a form of canonization, almost theological way of studying literature. That's what he says in a very famous book called Graphs, Charts, and Maps, something, Waves. ऐसा कुछ title है उस किताब का. So graphs, charts, and waves are the way he represents, what should I say? The data analysis that he has done, right? So he would want to see how many complex compound constructions were used in Victorian period and how has it changed over every decade. So the software program that he gets written from computer scientists shows that in 1870, the compound complex constructions in Victorian fiction were 50%. And then it has slowly declined. And now you only have kind of simple sentences or at the most compound sentences. So how is compound complex kind of sentence? I hope you know what is compound complex sentence, yeah?
Yes,
I
sir.
hope you know. So how is that changing over a period of time? So that is an example of distant reading. Any other questions? Vibha?
Sir, I have. Sir, as we have this problem, like we cannot read millions of books, but we came up with the alternative, this term or tool called distant reading, right? Which this algorithm and all read for us and judge based on that, right? And what I was saying is that isn't it injustice to those texts, because we are the people of literature, student of literature, and we know the significance of every text, and they're unique in some way.
No,
Isn't it an injustice to?
significance of all the text. Really, all 3 lakh novels that are published in Victorian period. You know the significance of each of these, or just those which are given to you by the canonical syllabus?
Yeah, of course, which is given to me, but no, I'm saying is that every text has their own significance, right? So isn't it injustice?
Distant reading is not displacement or doing away with close reading, right? It does not replace close reading. It complements close reading, right? It's a tool that is used for analysis, which you are not going to do any way in your life. जो कंप्यूटर कर रहा है ना काम, वो आप पूरी जिंदगी में कर पाने वाले ही नहीं हो. 50,000 नॉवेल तो पढ़ने वाला ही नहीं हो, राइट? हाँ ना.
Yeah, I'm agree on that, but I'm saying these texts are unique in their way, and some texts are left because of.
Find out its uniqueness, Vibha, you have a very good question. To find out its uniqueness, you will have to read all of them. Yes, no? हाँ ना.
Yes, agree.
तो आप कैसे करोगे 50,000 नॉवेल जो 1890 में पब्लिश हुए इंग्लैंड में? कैसे आप 50,000 नॉवेल पढ़ोगे और उसका यूनिकनेस तय करोगे? आप कितने नॉवेल पढ़ पाते हो? सिलेबस के कितने नॉवेल आपने पढ़े? So you would have read what, 100 novels, let's say, of that one era. Not all novels written ever, but 100 novels of that era, Victorian period.
But I have not counted how many books I have read. But maybe we can make any group of people who will do the reading, and then we discussion on that.
Okay. Then all these different people will have a different interpretation.
Yes.
So you are not reading that novel, you are making someone else read that novel, right?
Kind of.
So that is called distant reading. So you are anyway practicing distant reading, even whether you use computer or whether you don't use a computer. And you are not direct, वो direct reading नहीं है ना, वो indirect reading है ना. You will make a group of 100 friends who read 100 novels. And I'm sure you won't come up with even 10 people who read 10 novels, right? In actuality. लोग 3 नॉवेल लेके PhD करते हैं, है ना?
Sir, what about uniqueness then?
You tell me, how will you read them? How will you find out that? So that is the question which digital humanities ask. And the answer that it gives, that you have to use computers to read such a huge amount of data. It's not humanly possible to read all these novels. Right? It's not humanly possible to read 50,000 books that were written in 2021 in United States of America. 60,000 से लेके 1 लाख किताबें पब्लिश होती है USA में एक साल में. Yeah, Pooja.
So when we are thinking about this uniqueness and stuff, should not we also be aware that we are doing certain research? And in that research, there would be certain research questions. And those research questions does not necessarily mean reading all of those novels. Probably they would want to have a look at just certain things throughout all of these novels, all of these work, which could be easily done by like computers, and is not humanly possible. So I think we are also supposed to be aware of all these other things which play a role during these things, because if we consider what Vibha says, uniqueness, I think it's not possible, first of all, and second, it is not very reasoning when it comes to this research thing, because as you said, research questions are always important when it comes to research, right? So I think we should also be, yeah, looking towards it.
Towards which, Yani? Towards what?
Towards our research questions. Like if somebody is doing the research, they have their focus on the research question. Like what do they want to get out of it? So if they know what they want to get out of it, they would have different methods on how to get out of it. So that does not, like, if they have certain thing, like, for example, they have X. Now they want X as a product of this research. So probably in the method, they would not have to go through reading of all of these novels. They can just probably, like, have a help of computer, have all these certain terms and relations these novels have and stuff, and then they could have their own research answer, which is X. So that's right.
Right. So the tools will have to reflect your your research questions, obviously, right? So it depends. If you're looking for uniqueness of novels, then digital tools काम आने वाले नहीं है और आप पूरे सब novel पढ़ने वाले भी नहीं हो. So that itself is not a viable research question. You cannot really find that out, right? It is humanly impossible to find out what is unique about each and every novel written in the Victorian period, right? So that research question itself is based on a very small sample size, and that is the complaint which Moretti makes, that it is almost theological. It is a canonizing question, because you are asking what is so distinct about this novel, or कुछ खास distinct ना भी हो, but you want to canonize it. You want to establish that novel as a distinct novel, and that's why you are asking that research question. So according to Moretti, though it is a valid question, it cannot take you very far in the study of novel as a global genre, say for example, or a massive genre, big data. So as Pooja rightly says, very often, most of the time, your tools have to be consistent with your research questions, right? I wanted to show you one graph. PC is not working. That a researcher named Priya Jo, and she has researched the quantity of novels in English that were imported during the colonial rule in India. Number of novels imported. Which library has maximum holdings of which books? That's the research she did. And you can see that it is quantitative research. So very often digital humanities is quantitative over qualitative, which is the most of the time humanities research method. There is a distinction made between qualitative and quantitative. Right? Are you aware of this distinction? Have you heard of it? Qualitative and quantitative? Yes, no. Last year कुछ ऐसा
Yes, sir.
research के बारे में. So what is qualitative and what is quantitative?
Sir, qualitative data would be non-numerical data, and I'm sorry, not data. Wrong word.
What kind of
Yeah.
qualitative
So
is?
qualitative would be which we cannot express or exhibit in figures, right? In numbers. It's not numerical. Quantitative is numerical. Well, I guess this is the most basic distinction.
Correct. So quantitative is largely in statistical numerical representation of knowledge is possible, kind of knowledge you get. Qualitative is the kind of knowledge like memory or imagination or interpretation mostly, which cannot be represented statistically. Most of the humanities studies that we do is based on this kind of qualitative analysis of literature and very often exploratory type of research. But digital humanities brings back quantitative analysis in a big way. So Priya Joshi analyzed the books that were imported in a big way in India. So I will just show you what she has done. Maybe I will have to turn my camera other way around. Can you see this graph?
Yes, sir.
It is circulation of books in Calcutta Library. So in 1847, right, there are around 45,000 books as general literature sets, literature in general, while this is about prose sets of all kinds. So she is analyzing how the circulation happens. You can see these dips in 1956 onwards. And suddenly in 1962, there is a rise. Can you see that? Can you see the things clearly? There is a dip over here near 90. Am I?
Now you're audible, but sir, it gets stuck in between sometimes.
Circulation shot up after 1862 in Calcutta Library. More number of books were issued. And in 1857 or so, there is a decline. And why do you think that would have happened? Any ideas? Any guess? So you can see this is called data visualization, right? This is a representation of quantitative data. And interpretation would ask questions like, maybe you can account for this by saying that after 1857, the University of Calcutta was founded and people started studying. Books were prescribed, which were issued in Calcutta Library. In 1857, maybe because of what? What happened in 1857? Any idea?
The Sepoy Mutiny.
Mutiny, right? So, so these kind of falls and rise may be explained in social and cultural terms. But why in 1871 is the steepest fall in circulation, right? Why has it declined over a period of time? Is also a question that people may want to ask themselves. Any ideas? Why do you think is the decline here? 1871 के बाद. The book circulation in Calcutta Library has fallen substantially.
So maybe because of digitalization.
1867 में digitization.
Sir, does this also have something to do with the freedom struggle?
1857 की बात कर रहा हूं मैं, 19 नहीं. डिजिटाइजेशन कब से शुरू होता है?
Sir, I think this, yeah, I think this should be the result of the mutiny and all of that, that people would not really have the leisure of reading when such things are going on.
Some kind of explanation, right? A sudden dip in 18 उस time पे कुछ हुआ नहीं था, and some people may say 1871 में तो कुछ नहीं था. Okay, so this is circulation of books by categories. Fiction, drama, in stock and issued. So you can see here that people were reading 800 in 1902. 802 English books were in the stock of this library, Calcutta Library, Bagh Bazaar Library. But it issued 524 books, while Bengali books issued were 5,306. This is another example of data visualization. Now, do you think that the writer of this essay, Priya Joshi, would be able to read 802 novels? Do you think so?
No, sir.
So what would she do is come up with this kind of quantitative analysis and data visualization. And this is called digital humanities. Okay, I will stop with the last chart because that is the most interesting one. And those who are studying comparative Indian literature will have to discuss this. This is the chart of all novelists most present in Indian library catalogs. The most common novelist, English novelists who are available in Indian libraries. So there is a writer called Edward Bulwer Lytton who is available in 14 libraries. Sir Walter Scott is available in 14 libraries. Charles Dickens in 13. Disraeli, Thackeray. This is Marie Corelli in 12. E.W.M. Reynolds, who was one of the most popular novelists in India. Stevenson is available in 11 libraries. So what do you have to say about this? Any responses?
No, sir. Maybe if you could ask a more specific question.
You read that article, you will find out. You read that essay. But I'm just showing you an example of how it is done. And this is comparative literature wala. This is works translated or adapted into Indian languages in 19th century. Then the novelist who is most translated is G.W.M. Reynolds. उसकी ये किताबें इंडियन लैंग्वेजेस में ट्रांसलेट या अडेप्ट हुई. Mysteries of London, Mysteries of the Court of London, Mary Price, Seamstress, all these. And Walter Scott की ये novels. And non-British novels were Jules Verne's, Walter Hugo Cervantes. So the most popular writer in India was G.W.M. Reynolds, whom nobody has heard of. How many of you have heard of this novelist?
Not me, not me.
Because he's one of the most popular and uncanonical novels. If I ask Victoria, you will say Walter Scott, maybe Disraeli, maybe, right? Or who else? Victorian. Early Thomas Hardy, but never Reynolds. Stevenson, you may say. R.L. Stevenson, Treasure Island wala. So data is very often counter-canonical, right? Because the most influential novelist in India was somebody called Reynolds, who was considered as a popular, not serious writer. Right. Any other questions before we stop? We have run out of our time.
Sir, I don't have a question, but I want to say something. Like, as a Priyamada Gopal, if I'm correcting her name, if I'm not wrong. So she did distant reading, right, for her essay or for her research. And she did not read every text, right? And she did this distant reading, okay, which is the alternative thing to do, right? Which is again similar to the how.
No, in the essay that you're talking about, she practices distant reading. वो Bombay and Indian novels की बात कर रहे हो?
No, the visual data that you showed us.
She is Priya Joshi.
Okay.
Yeah, Priya Joshi.
Okay.
So
okay. Sorry.
You're right. She's doing distant reading, and she's using quantitative analysis and data visualization. But
yes. So what I am.
Yeah.
What I am saying is that it is again similar to the how Cambridge people, like elite people, write on India and Indian literature who has never stepped foot on India.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. But if you use computing tools और उन्होंने आपके सारे वो देख लिए हैं, आपका सबका मीडिया वो जैसे nowadays spying is far more easy, right? So a person in Beijing may know more about you by just looking up the data that you post on various kinds of social media. Now that person doesn't have to come here. Mark Zuckerberg.
But as a student.
And who?
As a student of literature and humanity, I think I believe in that if you want to write on something, you have to experience first. You have to see it on your eyes, and then I think you should do it.
Tell me. अब ये सब स्पेस के ऊपर नॉवेल लिखने वाले होते हैं, like my expedition on Mars or time travel. Do they experience all these things?
No, but physics is a very different subject.
It's abuse to write about it, or you can imagine things. Writers have this power. You need not go to
But
war
I-
to write. Do you believe me?
No, but I am saying that physics is a very different subject compared to humanities. So I think the example that you give is not in this, I think, working on this subject, is what I think.
What you are saying is, आप इंग्लिश लिटरेचर पढ़ते हो, बराबर है? आपने जेन ऑस्टेन की नॉवेल पढ़ी, तो आप वहां पे गए थे क्या? वहां पे रहे हो क्या? वो क्या खाते हैं, क्या पीते हैं, कैसे उठते हैं, कब नहाते हैं? Have you seen that?
No,
But even then you
no,
do
but
it, right?
if we're doing research,
Would you do that? You actually go to where, if you're doing PhD on, say, for example, Jane Austen, so do you have to go to England and वहाँ पे रही थी, उसके bedroom में जाके देखना चाहते हो क्या करती थी? Do you have to
no,
do that?
no, that's not possible. But what I'm saying that if you want to write on something, you should see it first. I think that's what I'm implying right here.
Obviously, you either read distantly or you read closely, right? So distant reading is a complementary addition to close reading. It does not replace close reading.
Yeah,
It is
I know
not-
it does not. Yeah, it does not replace close reading, but I'm saying that
it is adding to way you research literature. It does not replace the existing research method of close textual analysis. It expands it by adding one more option to the way you study literature. And very often it may throw up kind of results which you had not expected, because your sample sizes are very often too less. You read 4 novels of Jane Austen and write an essay saying culture kaise dikhta hai usme, right? But what about 40,000 novels that were written in that period? They would show you a different kind of picture of England, yes or no?
yes.
What do you think? Right. So because human reading, you have to expand. So all tools, all technology is meant to help human beings, right? Human labor, reduce human labor, right? Any tool, any technology is meant for reducing human labor. It does not replace human aging. It assists human aging.
But sir, we did criticize those elites who write about India and have not put a step on India. We do criticize them.
And but they don't criticize us who write PhD thesis on their books without knowing anything about their society and culture, because they don't care about our PhD thesis. अमेरिकन लिटरेचर में PhD किया है, अमेरिकन सोसाइटी के बारे में कुछ भी पता नहीं, क्या एक्चुअली उनके इश्यूज है, because that person maybe have visited as a tourist, not have experience of living there, right? So that also, we don't ask that question. That our own representations or understandings of Western literary texts may have, may be inflected by our own ignorance and biases of other people's culture. Is that possible?
Yes, sir, kind of.
Right? So why blame them for their ignorance and biases? Our understanding of their culture is also full of ignorance and biases. Agree, disagree?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. But that is actually going away from the topic, right? But that is not what actually these people are doing. They are studying Western literary texts. And when it comes to other cultures' texts, I think I will give you the name of the book by Franco Moretti called Novel. He has edited it, where he looks at novel as a global phenomena. And in the context of Indian society and culture, the essay on the novel is written by an Indian scholar. But the research question is given by Moretti. I hope you get this. So he is using Indian critics for his own distant reading. It's a 3-series book called Novel. And one essay from that is prescribed as part of your comparative Indian literature course. And that essay is by Meenakshi Mukherjee, Epic and Novel. It's from Franco Moretti's book. So he is not representing, he is not passing judgments on India. He is asking Indian scholars to do it for him. Right? I hope I am addressing your query, Vibha.
Yes, sir.
So it's not a British representation of Indian culture. It is Indians who are talking about Indian novels. So Japanese scholar will write about Japanese. I hope you get it.
Yes, sir, totally.
So you look up these anthologies, but these are very important and interesting questions that you have asked. So that it adds to our understanding of contemporary literary studies, right? Okay, so I think we have already overshot our time. You have a next class coming in. So we'll continue this tomorrow conversation. So other essays also, if you have not understood, please bring your questions. Right? And if you're not read, then what's the point of doing MA? Yes, so we meet tomorrow with questions from, I think, Ohan Saucy के बारे में Sezal को काफी questions थे, right, Sezal?
So I had.
No, it was Vibha.
Okay. So we'll discuss that also. So even if you have more questions,
Sir, but
yeah.
Sir, I read like 5 or 6 times, and I think I don't have question now.
कौन से ऐसे थे?
Horn sauces.
अच्छा, तो कल मैं तेरे को क्वेश्चन
Okay, sir.
Okay, so let's meet tomorrow.
Okay, sir. Good day.
Have a good day.